So you're probably wondering, there's this huge disconnect right now because Brian introduced me as this internet millionaire dude or whatever, but I'm up here with a t-shirt that says handball and CrossFit shorts and sneakers, and I'm all dirty and sweaty. So you're probably like, why is this scrub coming here to tell us about business when he's dressed like this? And it's a secret why. It's because I figured out my why. Now, is this too loud, or is it just loud for me? It's okay? A little loud. Can we turn it down just a tad? Sensitive ears in here. It's because I figured out my why. And I want to ask you guys a question if you figured out your why in just a second. But I want to share with my story what my why actually is and why I wanted to build a multi-million-dollar business just in the last few years and how I did it. Then I'm going to go into showing you how you guys can do that as well and grow your business online. Is that cool? Cool. All right. So it all started off, if you want to break it down on a psychological level, if there was a therapist in the room, I'm sure they could break it down for me very easily. In third grade, I was big into the playground. That's the only thing I really cared about was recess and going on the playground. I don't know if anyone else was like that. I hated school. Third grade, I'm like this tall in third grade, first off. About 100 pounds lighter, huge ears, big teeth, just really goofy looking and not an attractive third grade person, right? So recess happens one day. I don't know why it happened this day, but we go to recess and we decide to split the class up in two teams and do a class dodgeball competition. Anyone ever play dodgeball? Gosh, I love that sport. So we get out there on the dodgeball court, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna dominate, right? I'm awesome at dodgeball. Get out there, and the two popular kids, our teacher chooses the two popular kids as the captains. And I don't know if you've ever experienced when there's two captains and you have to be chosen. So I remember thinking, just kind of raising my hand and asking people to choose me first, because I'm the best, right? Now there's probably, 30 students. Probably 15 girls, 15 boys. And I'm thinking I'm gonna get called the first couple. I was like, I have to be. I'm the tallest dude. I'm really good. I'm athletic. I thought I was. And I remember one by one, a kid getting picked off. All the guys first. And I'm like, all right, I'm the last guy, so I'm gonna get picked. I have to get picked. Then they start choosing the girls. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. I've been picked over, or a girl's been picking over me. And it comes down to the last pick. And of 30 people, I'm the last person chosen. And I remember, and again, if this is the therapy class and you're my therapist, you'd probably be like, okay, the reason why you've become so driven and motivated and you want to compete your whole life is because you were chosen last at this one moment in your life, or many moments, or whatever. And that's why you're really competitive. And it's probably right. It's probably partially right, like my DNA, why I want to be so competitive and so driven. And I remember after getting picked last, I was so pissed on the playground. And I was just like an animal. I was catching everything. I was just slamming it in people's faces. I was just dominating. I was like, screw you kids. My feelings were hurt, right? And I remember saying, I never want to get picked last ever again in anything. Doesn't matter what it is, but I never want to get picked last. And I dedicated the rest of my youth, basically, to going to playing basketball and sports after school all night long until my mom called me to come home for dinner. And as I started to develop as a person, a growing boy into a man, a man's body, I guess, I started to become really athletic. And my hours of training started to pay off for me, and I started to win at pretty much everything I was doing in sports. And I realized, you know what? It didn't always become about winning for me anymore. I really enjoyed sports in high school and college when parents and students would come up to me afterwards and say, you know what? I really appreciate your energy, your hustle, your passion on the football field, on the basketball court, whatever that was. And that's what started to inspire me, is when people would say, I appreciated the art form that you created on the field, and what you did and how you guys came together. And it was inspiring to me, and it made me want to go do X, Y, and Z better. So I appreciate your energy and for being so passionate. about what you love. And so it turned from, I just want to destroy everyone in sports and never get picked last again, to I really want to inspire people, and I want to continue to work hard and get better so that others can appreciate my artwork, which I feel like is art when I'm performing on the football field. And you're all wondering, how is this going to make me any money online? And I'm getting to it. So once I learned that I was really passionate about inspiring others through my athletics and my sports, I wanted to figure out if I could make a living out of it. So I said, I'm determined to make the NFL and be paid to play football, to catch a football. My goal is to make $1 million a year catching a football. And I thought if I could do that, that would be a blast, and life would be pretty cool. I never ended up making the NFL. My goal was to work from the Arena Football League, where I was getting paid very small salary, about $16,000 a year, where it was not worth it because there's lots of injuries. In the second game of the season, I broke my wrist. I was diving for a football, dove right into the wall, snapped my wrist, and for the next 14 games, played just with it taped and had very limited mobility. At the end of the season, I had to have surgery, and they took a bone out of my hip. You can kind of see a scar right here. 20 staples right there. They took a sledgehammer and slammed against my hip just to get some little slivers, cut a scar open here, and put a little piece of bone in there. So my entire body was black and blue all down here because they don't just shave a piece of bone. If there's any doctors in here, they don't just shave a little piece of bone from your hip to do this. They take a hammer and smash it because the bone does not just come apart that easily. So I wake up with, too much morphine and bruised up in a cast, miserable. And I thought I was going to bounce back very fast. I'm like, 2 months, I'm going to recover. I'm usually like Wolverine. I heal pretty fast. That's one of my superpowers. But month after month, it took 6 months where I was in this full arm cast from here to here. 6 months. I could put it up here. I could bring it down here. I could put it over here. And it's basically like the kid from Rookie of the Year. You guys ever see that movie where the kid's like got his arm up here and then he's whips it down super fast when he gets his cast off? Except I couldn't whip it down at all afterwards. It was pretty loosey-goosey. And this entire time, I didn't have any money. I had 3 credit cards I was living off of, and I was sleeping on my sister's couch with a golden lab named Lady. And this dog was really what helped me kind of stay not completely depressed that my career was over in football. My passion, my dream, my entire childhood to make a living catching a football or being an athlete was gone at the time. Now, I'm getting to money and building your business online. Hold on 1 minute. Whoever giggled over there, I know you want me to talk about that. Is that Debbie? What's your name? Karen. Is there Cassie here? Is there a Cassie? Cassie, there you are. You guys look similar. Sorry, I saw you on Twitter. Where was I? Making money online. No, that's in a second. So after I got my cast off, and I was trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life? How can I still do something that I love that's going to make me money and going to inspire others? Because that's really what I wanted to do. And since I couldn't play football anymore, my mentor suggested, you know what, why don't you check out LinkedIn? He said, there's lots of great people on LinkedIn where you can find a job, you can find opportunities for your business. There's about 15 million people on there. You should check it out and try to connect with some of them. This was 15 million people about 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. Now there's 200 million people on this site, if you guys are still on there. And so while I was in my cast recovering with Lady next to me all day long, and again, I had one good hand and I could use 4 fingers, and I was in this position on my computer. I connected with people one by one on LinkedIn for about 6 to 8 hours a day for that first 6 months. That's pretty much all I did. And I started to make a lot of great quality connections, but I didn't want to work for someone. I didn't want to have a job. I just wasn't feeling like that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go sit at a desk for someone else and build their dream. I wanted to live my dream, my why. And just after I got my cast off was the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. Did anyone watch the Olympics on TV? Man, I love the Olympics. They're so inspiring. For whatever reason, the gymnastics just makes me feel alive when I watch gymnastics. Women's gymnastics, it's amazing. So I remember watching gymnastics and the decathlon, because I was a decathlete in college, and just basketball, and was just so inspired, but also depressed at the same time because I couldn't compete anymore. And I remember seeing it was 3 a.m., and this sport came on that I've never seen or heard of in my life, and it was called team handball. And I remember seeing these guys, just like the most athletic guys, jumping and throwing a ball, and it was like rugby and soccer and water polo on a basketball court, and it just looked so athletic and entertaining, and I was like, this is a sport that I should have been playing when I was a kid. And I got really, really upset and excited at the same time. Upset that I'd never seen this sport in my life until I was 24, 25, whatever I was, and excited to think that the US did not play in the Olympics for handball. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna make the US national team, and we're gonna make the Olympics in handball. So that dream fell short in the first few years because, one, I didn't have any money, and there was no team in Ohio that I could play with to learn the sport. But there were club teams around the US, and I remember seeing that the New York team, which is the shirt that I'm wearing, New York City Team Handball, they were the national champions for the amateur league of handball in the US. And I said, when I have enough money, I'm gonna move to New York City, and I'm gonna learn this sport, and I'm gonna make the US national team, we're gonna go to the Olympics, and I'm gonna have an amazing time. Because that's my why. I wanna be an athlete. I wanna inspire people through athletics. I'm getting to money in a second online. A couple years goes by. I am building these connections on LinkedIn. And a lot of people are asking me that I'm connecting with, man, your profile looks amazing. How did you get your profile to look like this? How do you have so many connections? What are you doing with these groups you're creating? How are you getting all these people to come together for these live events? Can you teach me how to do this? And for me, I was just doing it for myself. I wasn't trying to teach anyone. I just said, I want to learn everything about LinkedIn so that I can help my own self, right, and make some money. But what I really learned is you can make an amazing business by teaching and by sharing your expertise. And expertise is a big part of this that I'm going to be talking about tonight. But how does a 24-year-old punk who barely graduated college become an expert in LinkedIn when he's never had a real job, and it's for job seekers mostly? So how does someone like me become an expert in something that he shouldn't become an expert in? And it's because I just spent a lot of time and energy learning about it and proving certain things that work for people. I would help people one-on-one for free just to get case studies to help them see results in their business or achieve whatever their goals were in business. And eventually, someone came up to me and said, I'll give you $50 if you do a LinkedIn profile makeover for me. I said, all right, cool. So I made over his profile, and within 2 weeks, he made $6,000 from a client that he got from LinkedIn because of what we did with his profile. I was like, man, that's pretty sweet. I should have charged more. He's like, yeah, you should have. So I charged $100 the next time, then $200, then I got up to $300 I was charging for people. And I was thinking, but this isn't a real business. I'm just teaching people how to do certain things. I'm doing a profile maker. I might as well just be a dating expert and do profiles on Match.com if this is what I'm going to do, right? It's basically what I'm doing for business professionals. So I said, how can I make this into a business where I'm not having to trade my time to just do the work for the money? And I'll tell you what, one of the smartest things I did was I connected with some great mentors early on, people that I wanted to emulate, people who were very successful in business, and I just bugged the crap out of them and asked them for their advice and to see how I could emulate them. So what I tried to figure out then, I was making a little bit of cash here and there, but it wasn't enough yet to get my own apartment. And first was my basic needs. My why was I want to just live on my own and feel like a grown-ass man. I want to have my own apartment. I want to be able to afford my own food. I don't want to be sleeping on a couch with a dog named Lady all day long for the rest of my life. I just want to feel like I can provide for myself. So that was my first goal, was to just get my own apartment. Once I did that, I was still struggling to build a business. And it wasn't until about a year and a half, 2 years after I was doing all this work that something came to me, and I realized it was going to change the rest of my life for me financially. And does anyone know what this one thing that I did that helped me build my business into a multi-million-dollar company in the last few years is? Can anyone make a guess? Anyone? Shout it out. Or what's that? Wrote a book. Anyone else? Email list. Automated something, bingo. Webinars, did you say that? Yeah. So, again, I was doing one-on-one stuff for like 6 months or a year, $300 at a pop, and I was just like, this isn't gonna cut it. This isn't what I'm excited about. I can't, inspire lots of people like I was an athlete, inspiring 20,000 people watching me on the football field. I can't do that, it's one person at a time. Sure, it's fulfilling for that one person, but it's not gonna help me really grow to the audience I wanna be in front of. So I got asked by a friend of mine now, who I didn't know at the time, named Joel Comm, who you know pretty well. And this guy named Joel Comm approached me and said, I want to do this social media bootcamp thing, and I've got a Twitter person, a Facebook person, and a YouTube person, but no one is talking about LinkedIn. This was 3 years ago, I think. No one's talking about LinkedIn, but someone recommended that you were the guy I should talk to about LinkedIn. And again, for about a year, I was just talking about it to everyone. And I wrote a book about it. And he said, I want to have you come on a webinar and try, and what we're going to do is it's going to be to my audience, and you have to sell something at the end. You have to have some type of product that you need to sell. And what's going to happen is 50% of the commissions are going to go to me after we sell your product. I said, okay, cool. I was really excited because I knew he was a big deal at the time, but I was terrified because I had no clue. I didn't have a product. I had no clue how to sell a product or how to create a product. And I remember at this time I was at my brother's house, and the day of, I asked a friend basically to help me create a sales page for something, just so I could have a PayPal button for people to buy something. And I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach them LinkedIn. I'm going to give them a 3-week training on LinkedIn from the beginners, intermediate, and advanced. And I'm going to charge $150. I was just making stuff up out of my head what I was going to do because I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, $150, I'm going to teach you guys how to use LinkedIn from the beginning to the most advanced stuff. Everything I've learned, I've spent more time on LinkedIn than people that actually work at LinkedIn over the last years. I can teach you everything on how to grow your business online or achieve your goals. So, I'm sitting down at my brother's kitchen table, and I was like, you guys have to leave the house. There needs to be no distractions. Get the dogs and the cats in another room. Get the kids out of here because I need to be quiet and have some focus because I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm terrified. There's supposed to be like 500 people on here. My slides, I'm like putting together last second, and I'm just like so nervous. I've never really spoken in front of a big audience at this time before. So I'm sitting down at the table. The webinar begins, and I literally have to take my shirt off because it's like just dripping so much sweat on my shirt. I remember it was a white shirt too, and it was just like yellow stains, and I was like, oh my God, this smells. And I was just like, took my shirt off. I was like, I need to breathe. Turn the fans on over me. I'm like, okay, I got to do this. I got to be ready because this is a big moment for me. I was like, my first webinar, big audience. What am I going to do? It takes me about 20 minutes to stop stumbling and like muttering through like just telling my like intro to LinkedIn and my story. And Joel's like, okay, why don't we just get right into the content? I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, cool. So I start talking, I'm talking a million miles a second, right? But I just somehow like blank out and get in the zone. And I'm just like teaching everything I know about LinkedIn. And it's like the hour's over and I'm like, hope you guys enjoy this, I'll see you later. Like I forgot to sell, I forgot to like tell them I have a product. I was like, oh, I just woke up, all right, see you guys later. Like I was out of it. And Joel goes, wait a minute, hold the phone here. This was unbelievable. He's like, let's cover some of the things you talked about. You showed me this, you showed me this, you showed some results here. This is unreal. He's like, you guys have to sign up for what Lewis is offering. He's got this great training he's going to be providing over the next couple weeks. Make sure you sign up for this. It's going to blow you away. If you thought this was good, sign up for this. I was like, yeah. It's like, you tell him, Joel. And I'm still like dripping sweat, but I'm shirtless now still. I'm still like dripping sweat, but I'm like freaking out. I don't know what to do. There's 600 people on the webinar at the time. And I was just terrified because you can see comments coming through. You can see people on there. I'm like, do they like it? Do they not like it? Do I sound like an idiot? Or do I sound like I know what I'm talking about? I closed the webinar down. And I remember I was just like, could barely breathe. I closed the webinar down. And I go to my email inbox. And I know one person in the room has experienced this, and I know you've experienced this, John. But for me, I'm sitting down on my computer. Maybe I stand up in the moment, but I turn the webinar off. My laptop's here, And I'm like, okay, let me check to see if anyone bought this thing, because I doubt they did. I go to my Gmail account, and this was the most beautiful site. It's more beautiful than like a Brazilian supermodel for me. It was just like, this was such a gorgeous just view. I opened up my emails in the Gmail account, and the whole thing from top to bottom was filled with "you've received payment." And I was just like, I get chills just thinking about this. Every line said, "you've received payment," all the way down. And I think there's like 50 lines or something. I think I have it set at 50 that shows it. And I was just like, I started screaming, jumping around, like doing backflips on couches, kissing the cat. I was like doing whatever I could just to like get this energy out. And I remember thinking, holy shit, I just made $6,300 in an hour teaching about LinkedIn, something that I know really well about, something that I'm an expert in now, and I could do this every day for the rest of my life. If I can make $6,300 in an hour every single day for the rest of my life, why wouldn't I do this? I was like, I am rich, right? And again, I'm living off of 3 credit cards. I was just at my sister's house for a year on her couch with a dog named Lady who is literally 80 pounds laying on top of me. So, what did I do over the last few years? I have done over 700 live webinars in the last few years since that one moment. And if we do $6,300 in an hour on a webinar, it's like a depressing hour for me. And I get really mad that I didn't do a better job to deliver value for the people that are on the webinar. And it all comes down to value. So, now that I just spent 24 minutes telling you about my why, I want to ask you guys really quickly what your why is. Now again, my why was, I guess I didn't finish my why, but my why originally was I wanted to be an athlete, to inspire people. Then I wanted to make enough money so that I could move to New York and learn the sport of handball from the best team in the country so that I could give myself the best opportunity to make the Olympics and then inspire more people and be a competitive athlete. 2 years ago, I moved to New York and showed up to practice the first day as the only born American, 20 different nationalities of players who had moved to New York City, who all used to play professional handball in Eastern Europe, and Japan, and all over the world. And I show up as the only born American, and I show up to practice and I say, hey guys, I'm here to learn handball and make the US national team. I want to be in the Olympics. They all laugh at me, and they say, this is our last practice of the summer. We're taking the next 2 months off, so you might as well just go home and don't think about this dream anymore. But if you want to try it out, come back in 2 months and try it out then. Come back 2 months later, show up at the first practice again, say, hey guys, I'm Lewis Howes, I'm here to learn handball. They laugh at me again. Then they start to embrace me as I start to show up every practice and really learn from them. And within 9 months, made the US national team. Competed in Argentina a few months ago, however, before the Olympics, but we did not qualify for the Olympics. So my goal now is to keep training to 2016 and build my business so that I have my lifestyle that I want, that I can train, work out, travel to compete, and not be tied down to working as much. So that's kind of my why. Building a business that's more automated, that doesn't need a lot of my time, so that I can kind of live my dream, my why, and inspire others through handball. So what's some of your whys? I just want to get a couple people to shout out or raise your hand of why do you want to grow a business online or build a business online? Because if you just want to build a business to make money, you're not going to be as profitable as if you have like a driving passion behind something of why you want to make that money. So is anyone brave enough to just screech out like what their why is? Is anyone travel? Because you want to travel. You want to have the flexibility and the freedom to travel, and you don't want to worry about like having to be at your work or whatever. Okay.
Making a difference for youth through leadership.
Making a difference for youth through leadership. So you want to lead the youth.
Teach them to be leaders.
Teach them to be leaders. Okay.
My son passed away wanting to be an anthropologist, and I feel that our children do need leadership, and I want to share with them the philosophy and the leadership and achieving where they want to be in their life, because I think that that's a critical part where they get that opportunity to move forward.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Well, people in the back with their heads down because they don't want me to call on them. What's that? Freedom? What type of freedom? That's. Don't want to work for the man. Stick it to the man. Right? No, just kidding. Anyone else? Come on. You got your head down. Little lady right back here. You've been having your head down the whole time. I've been looking at you, trying to get your attention, and you just keep looking at your phone. You better be tweeting this, or what's your why? Why do you want to build a business online or grow your business? Or are you just here to learn about cool stuff? Does anyone understand why I'm sitting up here and pondering this? Does anyone understand? Is that a why you want to make money online or grow your business? That's the why? Like, what's your personal why? To be an inventor. Be creative? Okay, that makes more sense. To like express your creativity. Gotcha, okay. Anyone else? The young man.
I want to help people.
You just want to help people. That's your why, okay.
And primarily, right now, I'm using the tool of LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, cool. Good man. LinkedIn's good. Anyone else have a why? Anyone brave? The lady, the cute lady in the back, hopefully your husband's not next to you. Yes, you. What's your why? Why do you want to build a business? What's one personal... Teach the youth. Okay. Cool. So now we have the why. I think it's important to know what your why is so that you can have something behind making money online or building a business. Because if it's just like, I just want to make money to live, I feel like you're not going to be doing it with the pure intent and passion that you could be doing it. And if you're going to be doing something half-assed, then it's like, for me, I don't want to do that. So what I did early on was I said, okay, how can I make money online or build this business, or what can I do to get leads, traffic, sales, all these things I'm supposed to be talking about, what can I do? And what I did is I said, I got to find the people who are doing the best at this right now. And when this was like back in 2008, I remember one of the people that was doing the best at this in the world is actually sitting right here. It was John Chow. And I remember everyone was talking about John Chow, like, man, he's writing blog posts about how he made $40,000 in a month from his blog. And I was like, holy shit, how is this guy doing this? I was like, I have no clue, but I need to learn how he's doing it. So I studied John Chow and all the stuff that he was talking about. And even though I didn't apply everything he was talking about, I applied some of it. And then I found someone else who was doing something online and a few other people, and I said, okay, how are these people building a business? They look like they're having so much fun when they're doing it, and they look like they're not working that much. Either it's a perception they're putting off or it's actually real. Either way, I want to be like that. So I just started following people that were doing it right, and I just emulated them over and over and over. So I think you want to find the people to emulate and then just reverse engineer exactly how they're doing it. You can pretty much figure it out online how they're doing it by reverse engineering it, or just call them up and ask them to mentor you or for some advice. Ask them for a 30-minute interview and then pick their brain for 30 minutes. So emulating someone who's already the best is a great way to start with building your online business. The next thing is really figuring out your expertise or your passion. Now, all the stuff I'm talking about may not apply to everyone because you may have a software, you may have a skill that you do, you may be a programmer, you may have a service, maybe you have a product. There's different things, so this may not apply to everyone, but you can kind of twist it in a way that it does. You need to figure out what your expertise is, and this is just what I did. So I'm talking about my personal experience. And my expertise at the time was LinkedIn. So I said, how can I get my message out there that I actually am the expert at this topic so that everyone knows it and people start coming to me as opposed to me having to go to other people? So what did I do? I wrote a book. And again, I almost flunked out of English. But anyone can write a book. It's extremely easy. My friend Alicia Dunhams has a program called Bestseller in a Weekend that teaches people how to write an Amazon bestseller in 3 days. It doesn't take a year. You don't need a publisher. You don't need to find a book deal. You can do a lot of these things very easy and very fast for little or no money. So one of the things that I did was wrote a book. And then I wrote another book about another topic that I wanted to be an expert in, which was webinars. But writing the book gives you a lot of credibility. Once I got the book, I started getting press and media without even trying. I started getting people reaching out to me and saying, hey, I want to interview you. I want to have you on this webinar. I want to do a partnership with you. I want to promote you just because you're an author. Now, my book could be a piece of crap. It doesn't matter as long as you have the perception. And I'm not saying write a piece of crap. Write something good. And I feel like my stuff is really good, but it could be a piece of crap in your mind. But you want to write something that is published. And the easiest way to do that is on Amazon. You can just do a Kindle. And literally, you can do it in a couple weeks. And it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be profound. If this is talking about business or an expertise, then it's much easier to write those type of books than it is a novel, right? It's a lot easier because there's formats for like business or expertise type books. So that's step one. Once you get the book out there, it's a lot easier to do everything else you want to do. If you don't have a book, it's going to be much harder to be known as one of the top experts in your field or in your industry or whatever topic you want to be talking about. It doesn't matter if you have a product or a service or anything. So that's the first thing. You really want to create your own book. And if you guys have questions about books, feel free to ask me afterwards. The next way to kind of build your expertise so others know about you, and this is something that John does really well, is speak at industry events. And I remember the first time I met John Chow was at Affiliate Summit in January of 2009 in Las Vegas. I don't know if you remember that. I think you were there. Is that right? Yeah. And I remember I was like, I want to emulate these experts, these people who are building business online. I've got to meet them in person. I've got to learn from them. So I just said, okay, I got to go to the events they're speaking at. They're promoting where they're going to be speaking at. So I got to go show up and just bug them in the middle of the night and have fun with them and try to like build this rapport with them so I can learn from these experts. Speaking at the industry events is really going to help you build that expertise, at least the perception in the rest of the your industry. Now I'm going to talk about content. Now there's different trains of thought for creating content, and John is a guy that creates, I don't know if you still do this, but he did 3 blog posts a day, consistently every day, or 5 days a week or something, right? Do you still do that? You got lazy now, right? You got other people writing for you. He got lazy. Once he was making 40 grand a month, he was like, I'm good now. For me, I've got one site, a sports business that I run, that we do 2 articles a day. And we're trying to just get as much traffic as possible through organic search. That's one way of going about it, but we've got like 5 people on our team who are writing and creating content, a producer for the site, and it's just like a lot of time and energy. That's not what I like to do myself. So on my personal site, I'm trying to create one unique piece of content every week. One unique piece of content every week that people want to share. That's my entire idea. How can I create something that is valuable for my industry, my audience, that people want to share? I don't need to write something every day. I don't need to do 3 posts a day, although you can do that. Depends on what your model is. John's got more of an affiliate ad model, correct? Where mine is more building a list and selling my own products and services. So there's different types of models depending what you want to do. But I like to do one piece of content a week. One piece of unique content a week. And what I've really found is this year I'm doing a much better job of is leveraging other huge networks that have an audience already. So the content I'm creating now is on iTunes and YouTube. So I don't know how many million people are on YouTube, but it's one of the top sites in the world. How many?
Maybe 1 billion.
It's like, 400 or 500 million or something. It's a lot of people are on YouTube. So I'm tapping into a content network that has an audience built into it and creating content there so that I can be on that search engine plus Google's search engine. And then I put that content on my blog once a week. So if you go to my site, lewishowes.com, you'll see that I posted a video from YouTube today and wrote an article about that video, which was, ironically, how to sell a product online before you create it. And So I'm leveraging YouTube, that audience, to build that. I'm also doing a podcast on iTunes now, which I don't even know, what are there, 400 million credit cards on file for Apple, something like that. So I'm tapping into an audience that's already built in, that if I just put something up there on iTunes alone, people are going to be able to see it. I don't even have to put it on my site if I don't want to, right? So that's what I'm doing. One unique piece of content every single week. Because if you want to build a business, I feel like in today's online world, you have to create some type of information around that product or service you're selling. And I think if you look at some of the best organizations, it doesn't matter if there's an expert or if it's just a big corporation, they're creating some type of valuable resources or content around their product or service. The other thing that I like to do, and I see that some of the top experts doing this, is posting on other people's sites that are extremely popular. So I am writing a couple of articles each week and posting on Forbes.com, Entrepreneur.com, or other single author popular blogs that I can that are specific to my industry. Yeah.
What about the articles that actually show up at the top of LinkedIn? Is that something you can, every time I get LinkedIn, there's 4 or 5 articles at the very top. Sometimes I click on
Are you talking about the ones that people just share on LinkedIn in their like in their news feed, or?
It's just like at the very top left, there's
Yeah. Those are like the featured articles on the web that are being shared on LinkedIn, the most popular articles that are being shared. So if you can get a lot of shares on your articles, sometimes they'll be featured up there. I've seen like Social Media Examiner. It's usually the bigger blogs though. It's gonna be tough if you're only getting 5,000, 10,000 hits a month. But those get a lot of traffic if you get featured. But posting content on other people's sites is the way to go. You want to get in front of as many people as possible. And question? Yeah, John, can I write a guest post for you?
Sure.
Done. So basically building relationships with people, going to industry events, finding the writers at the different sites. It can be a news site. It could be like I'm in the social media space or whatever, so I go to Mashable.com or Social Media Examiner, find the owners of the sites or the writers and say, hey, can I write a guest post? A lot of sites are accepting guest posts because they want a free writer, basically. You're not going to get paid for it, but if you can get the exposure and you know they have a large audience, and if it's going to get traffic back to your site, then for me it's worth it because I want to get my name and my business and my products in front of as many people as possible. Yeah, of course, of course. So guest posting, so I'm doing both news sites, Forbes.com and Entrepreneur.com for me, because that's kind of my small business audience. And then I'm doing as many other personal blogs that I can do that I feel like have a good audience, 50,000 plus emails on their list, that it's going to get me 1,000 to 2,000 hits back to my site in that week. Question?
Google has an alert you can set up, so I have it set on the topic for my industry.
Yeah.
And I actually picked up the phone and was trying to ask them, okay, if I apply, would I get picked up for this topic? And nobody there seemed to know. So almost like the LinkedIn thing, so if I get an email every day about a certain topic, and it's a bunch of PC magazines, I think it's some forums. But I would try to ask them, like, hey, if I actually start blogging about this topic, would it actually be
In the Google alerts and like the newsfeed, I think it's like the more popular blogs, whatever's getting the most attention. So you gotta kind of get a bigger blog first before you start seeing that in the newsfeed. Sometimes I've seen mine in there for like LinkedIn marketing or stuff whenever I'm doing the Google alert there. So just depends. And I'm not really an expert on like understanding how that works. So whatever I just said could be complete bullshit as well. I mean, so the next thing, I'm sure, a lot of these concepts, and I'm sharing with you guys, I'm sure a lot of you already know all this. So I feel like I'm just preaching to the choir a lot of times when I talk about this. But one of the things that was extremely powerful for me was understanding leveraging social proof. This was end of 2009. I was still like pretty much a nobody. But what I had done is I had emulated what other successful people had done on their blogs, on their websites, and basically just mimicked some of the things they were doing. So what are some things that you see on people's websites, some of the popular bloggers or sites? What do you see at the top half of the page when you go to someone's site. Just how many followers they have, right? Maybe if they have 100,000 subscribers or 20,000 opt-ins or 50,000 Twitter followers, right? Okay. Anyone else? How many? There's an email opt-in form, right? Anyone else? Logos of companies you've been featured in. So I did all these things. I had an opt-in on the top of my site. I had follow me on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. I've got whatever, 1,000 followers. And then I was like, okay, well, I've done a few of these little blogs that I've like guest posted for, and I've been featured in Fast Company and Business Week and a few other places. So why don't I follow and emulate what the successful bloggers are doing and put some logos up on my site? I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just following what they're doing because it's working for them, right? And I'm just like learning as I go. So I put up 3 or 4 logos, Time and Business Week and something else, Fast Company. And within a month or 2 after I do this, I get an email from someone. He emails me from my contact form on my website, and he says, I'm looking to do an article, a feature article for Details Magazine, and I'd love to get you on the phone to ask you some questions to see if you're a good candidate. I called him literally in like 2 seconds, because I was like, yeah, sure, I want to be in Details Magazine. So I talked to the guy, and he's like, so tell me about your business, your background, your experience, this and that. I tell him about my LinkedIn stuff, and I'm an author and whatever. And he said, cool, I think you're a good fit for the story I want to write about. And I was like, okay, what's it about? And he was like, it's about people who can make you rich online. And at this time, I was barely making any money, but I was like, yeah, I can talk about that. He's like, all right, so I'm needing you to fly out to New York City in 2 weeks, and we're going to do a photo shoot in the middle of Times Square. And we've got a couple other people we're featuring. There's a guy named Tim Ferriss, a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, and a guy named Seth Godin, who are all going to be at the photo shoot as well. And I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, that's sweet. And literally, I'm like peeing in my pants, though. I'm like, yes, let's do this. And so I fly to New York City. I think I might have taken even like a bus because I still don't have any money, so I'm like taking a Greyhound or something. I get there, show up in Times Square like 8 a.m. or whatever it was. Gary comes from behind. He's like, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you. Seth Godin shows up. I'm like, this is surreal, right? I'm like, it'll be in Details Magazine. And we do this photo shoot. It ends up being like a 2-page spread in the middle of Details Magazine. And this is the only really good thing about growing up and being super tall when you're in 3rd grade, is that when you're around everyone else who's smarter than you, but they're down to your shoulder level, when you do a picture, they're not going to put you off to the side and put the tall guy to the side and everyone else in the middle. They're going to put you right smack dab in the middle, just like smiling, with all these amazing thought leaders just like off in the distance. And you're just like, yes, right? Even though you're completely ignorant of what you're doing. So I get this 2-page spread in a feature article in Details Magazine, and with Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, and a couple other people, and I'm straight in the middle. And I'm just like, I'm barely doing anything, right? I'm like, I don't know how I got this. And so I email the guy after the magazine comes out, and I say, thanks so much. This is a great article. I really appreciate you considering me and featuring me. Just curious, how did you find me in the first place? Because I never asked him. And he said, someone, like an industry leader, someone shared a tweet of yours on like an article you'd written from your website on Twitter, tweeted it. I clicked on that, your name on your Twitter profile, saw your bio, and you had an amazing bio. There's a lot you can do with words, right? He said, so I clicked on the article, went back to your site, and right at the top of your site, I saw Business Week and Time and Fast Company, and I was so intrigued by your bio and the article you wrote and the person who promoted the article on Twitter that I said, you know what, if he's good enough for Time and Fast Company and Business Week, he's good enough for Details Magazine. This is literally what the guy told me. And I said, holy shit, this is amazing how you can leverage social proof. And I'm putting every logo up on my site, right? And that really changed a lot of things for me, is really leveraging social proof. Everyone does it. I'm sure a number of you do it here. And it's nothing new. It's not like some profound concept, but just make sure you get as much media attention as you can and then just promote the media you get so that other people see it. Make it viewable for other people. So get as much media attention and leverage your social proof to get more media attention, more traffic, more leads, more sales. That's something that I can recommend. I did an interview a couple days ago for my podcast, and it's with a guy named Grant Cardone. Now, this guy came on the scene about 2 years ago. I first heard about this guy, and now he's just been everywhere. Like, I can't go anywhere online without seeing his picture, his name, his articles, his videos. He's everywhere. And he's probably mid to late 40s. He might be somewhere around there. And super successful business guy. Written 3 or 4 New York Times bestsellers, writes for Entrepreneur, a lot of different places. And so I was interviewing him for my podcast. And I was just, before the interview, I was like, we've been communicating online and we've done a couple interviews together, but you've been crushing it the last couple of years. And I was like, I'm gonna be 30 next month. Is there anything that you would have done differently when you're my age to help me accelerate my business even farther and even greater? He said, you know what, man? I used to pride myself in making money when I was your age and then saving it and having great margins and 40% margins and saving it and just holding on to my money. He said, I used to take pride in that. I was making all this money and saving it. He was like, if I were you, I would invest every penny back into your brand and the marketing of who you are and your message, your product and your business. He's like, don't save any money. Obviously, I'm going to save some money, but he said, don't save any money. Spend every last penny on branding, on marketing, and getting yourself out there to the biggest audience possible. Because if you can get the attention of everyone, then the key is just staying relevant. Once everyone knows who you are, you just have to stay relevant. You just have to stay on top of mind awareness. So for me, I'm doing everything I can. I kind of already knew that, but I'm doing even more of everything I can to invest my money back into me, because I'm my best asset. Putting the money in the bank is really not the best asset for me. Reinvesting in my brand and the marketing of my message is a greater asset. So that's just something I learned recently is I really value branding. I'm rebranding my entire site. I'm doing as much as I can to focus on marketing. And so I would just urge you to consider focusing on branding and your positioning as best you can. We'll talk about leads real quick. I think I got 10 minutes, and we can do Q&A, and I can wrap things up here soon. But does anyone have a challenge with getting leads? Anyone? One person. I'll skip this. We'll go to the next part. Does anyone have a challenge with getting leads? Okay. Jesus. I know I'm in workout gear, but just give me a break. So, the best way to get leads for me, and this is something I've done over the last 3 years, I built my list to 100,000 people, and this is one list. I've got other lists as well that are 50,000 and up, but my core business is about 100,000 people. And the way I built that, originally I built about 30 to 35,000 through LinkedIn alone. A few years ago, when you used to be able to export emails from the groups you created, you could no longer do that, but I kind of had a base. But the other 70,000 I built from one thing, because can anyone make a guess, educated guess?
Free ebooks.
Free books. Wrong guess. Anyone else? Webinars. Yeah. Sorry. I give away free stuff on webinars, so it's pretty close. So doing webinars is the best way to get free leads and qualified leads. And I'm gonna give you guys a little secret right now on how I've done this multiple times where I've got 5,000, 10,000 leads a pop for free. And that's helped me generate multiple 6 figures from this one thing. Now, this is a secret that actually I don't really share. But since I love Brian, I'm going to share it with you guys. I think I'm actually coming out with something when I'm going to be talking about this in a product probably in the next few months. So hopefully you guys do this before, because once it gets out there, everyone's going to be doing it, and it's not going to work anymore. And if someone does this in the next 2 weeks and gets 1,000 leads, I will give you, how much money will I give you guys? The first person who does this, I could do an interview, but I was going to give someone money. I'll give a $100 bill to someone who does this in the next 2 weeks. You got to email me, and you got to show me the list, at least 1,000 leads, and it shouldn't be that hard. And you're going to make a lot more than $100 from those 1,000 leads if you know how much a lead is worth for you. So what you do, and this is for people if you have no list, you could build like a 10,000 person list in a week, really in like a couple of days if you wanted to. So this is InstaList. I should create a product called InstaList. Not Instagram, InstaList. Actually, I don't really want to tell this anymore. I'm going to go to the next thing. Oh, you want to hear? Oh, no, you're awake now, huh? Oh, okay, I'm just kidding. So here's what you do. There's thousands of groups on LinkedIn, probably tens of thousands. There might be 100,000 groups. I don't even know. Lots of them. 1 million groups?
That's the number I heard.
1 million groups. I'll have to verify that. You have to send me a link that says that. There might be, actually, because there's a lot of groups out there. The thing is, maybe 1 or 2% of these people actually know what the heck they're doing with their groups. A lot of people just said, I'm going to create something because I want to have like a community and who knows what I'm going to do with it. But 1 to 2% are actually monetizing their groups. So what I started doing is I was making all of my sales from my LinkedIn groups originally. I was promoting a free webinar, giving them some content, something valuable that they could get results from. And has anyone been on one of my webinars? Has anyone ever? Oh, wow, cool, okay. Were they good, hopefully, or? Okay, cool. That was good. So my goal is to over-deliver and give value so people get results on webinars. So what I started doing was going to people who had a big group. 10 to 50,000 is a good place to start. If you can get a group with 100,000 plus, even better. I started going to people with groups. Brian was actually one of them. He had a sports group. And I would go to them and I'd say, I've got this great, no, first I would ask, are you doing anything to monetize your group? You can write this down if you want to. Are you doing anything to monetize your group? 9 out of 10 people are going to say, no, I'm not doing anything. I've made a couple $1,000s maybe from doing something, but really if they have a 100,000 person list, group, they should be making a lot more. And if I can make $1 million from a 100,000 person group, then everyone can do it as well. It's not that hard. I'm not that smart. I just take action and give value. It's simple. So you say, are you monetizing your group? 9 out of 10 are going to say no. Even if they say yes, you can say, I'd love to show you how you can make $5,000 to $10,000 a month from your group. If they have 50,000 plus, then this is possible. If they have less than 50,000, it's going to be a little harder. So you say, I'd love to show you how you can make $5,000 to $10,000 a month from your group. And what you offer is you come to them with the content and the information, which should be your expertise. So you want to find the groups that are around your industry. If you're a realtor, if you're an expert in real estate, you wouldn't want to go to job seeker group. You'd want to go to the realtor groups or the business owner groups, whatever you're selling in real estate. And you say, I'd love to share a free presentation, an online presentation about a topic that's going to help the members of that group with something. So you got to think about what your industry is, what their biggest challenge is, their obstacle, and figure out a way to overcome that for them. So you've got to do a little bit of work creating some type of content or find the expert in that industry who does presentations who can give this content. Then you say you can either charge for the webinar, which I don't like to do. You can say, I'd love to give this free presentation where we're going to sell something at the end. And hopefully you either have a product or you bring in someone who does have a product and then you sell that product or the service around the content you're selling. I would teach LinkedIn marketing tips and then sell a LinkedIn marketing course, right? So it works there. That's a way to build an InstaList by saying, let's do this webinar. Oh, by the way, you don't know how to run webinars? Oh, I'll host the webinar for us. So it goes through my system and go to webinar, whichever platform you want to use, and they can send a message once a week to their group for free. So they send the message out with a link to your webinar. You can see the leads come through, do the webinar, make them money, you get the leads. You split 50-50. The first time I did this, I became friends with a guy named Michael Crossan. He's got a 500,000 person group now. At the time, I think he had around 100,000 people in his group. I said, let's do this webinar about LinkedIn. You've got a social media group. It'd be a great topic for your audience. I'm going to teach them how to grow their business on LinkedIn. He said, okay, cool, let's do it. He promoted it. Within the first 30 minutes, there was 1,300 leads that came in to the webinar system. By the end of 2-day promotion, 8,000 people. I had an 8,000 person fresh, brand new list of people who are interested in the topic that I was about to teach them on the webinar. We did $26,000 in sales on the webinar. He got 50%. I kept the 8,000 person list and continued to give free educational content to them over and over, making me around 6 figures over the next few months. Instalist.com. Someone buy it. I've got actually probably another 15, 20 minutes of something that's pretty interesting, which is my 7-step webinar selling sequence, but I'd rather actually save that for another time because we're at the hour mark. So I just want to do Q&A for 15 minutes if we can do that. Was this helpful so far for anyone? Did I just ramble too much about my why for like 20 minutes that you guys were like about to run out of here and be like, tell me how to make money online, or was it okay? Cool. So let's... Lewis. Yeah, Lewis Howes. And I would love to make one request before you guys want to ask questions. I don't know if we're doing a mic or if people are just shouting it out, but I do have, this is my one, I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. I have this iTunes show. I would love for you guys to go and download my show and check out these interviews. They've been inspiring a lot of people. I'm bringing in some interesting guests, Tim Ferriss, Robert Greene, world-class athletes, celebrities, talking about how to achieve greatness. So it's more of like a personal development, fun interviews that I'm doing. I'd love for you guys to check it out on iTunes or on your podcast app. It's called The School of Greatness, or you can just search Lewis Howes.